Welcome to Last Week in Warframe, a series where I keep you updated on the past week of Warframe by compiling all news, announcements, and general posts by the developers from the forums, Reddit, Twitter, and even their live streams. Timestamps to each topic as well as their sources are in the description, so without further ado, let's go over these announcements and news from the 20th of April to the 3rd of May. To begin this episode, Rebecca, on home time number 5, after returning from a break, shared some information on updates to the Partner and Creator program, as well as the following comments.
Reb, what's up? Yeah, so I obviously had to take some extended time away from work, just circumstances being what they were. If you ever spend a lot of time grieving in quarantine and in isolation, you really spend a lot of time thinking. And, I've been doing this job a long time now, and I put some thoughts together just on kind of the current state of things since I was last on prime time, since the team's been carrying on, just as I was dealing with my own things. And so I wrote it out so it wouldn't get lost in word vomit. So I just wanted to go through some thoughts I've been having just to make sure everyone knows, as developers and as a community team, what we're seeing and what we're doing to improve those things. From my experience, the Warframe community's tone and approach to online discussion about Warframe, about the game, is a direct reflection of the product. No amount of marketing we do or live streams, like now we do, can compensate for what brings everyone to the table in the first place, which is the product with which we engage. When the product is inconsistent, the community is inconsistent. What's wrong with my game, they'll ask. It felt different a year ago. I'm doing everything the same, but it's just not right. So what do we do as a community? We seek answers. We find them on YouTube, forums, Discords, and more. We find lots of affirmation that problems exist. Yet we rarely find the affirmation on what problems have been solved or what are in the process of being solved. And we do solve problems, just sometimes not as fast as we make them. And this is something I see really often. When I was cursory checking into things, you'd see like a joke about how long Nightwave has lasted, get a lot of traction, but the fact that the solution, which is that it's ending May 3rd, does not get as much traction, which it might when the time comes. But, the problem is part of the dogma and the solution not so much. So just for some clarity and some overall big picture things, I wanted to go over some problems that we're actually working on fixing, just so everyone's kind of knowing that we are doing that. So for Railjack, we are doing a full Railjack revisit. Pardon me, it's going to be discussed tomorrow on the Devstream, and we're actually going to be opening up the semi-public test cluster for the weekend. Due to a miscommunication on my part, working in isolation as I have been, there's now a more clear list of people on the test cluster. We have nearly 200 players all over the world who will receive their keys tomorrow. There's a healthy mix of experience levels, different ranked intrinsics, and so forth. And then, of course, Warframe partners that have recent activity are also invited. So on my part, there was a bit of a miscommunication on who would get in, and I think it led to some toxicity online, so stop that. That was my fault. Also, on a bit of an emotional note, I was just putting the forum thread live, just saying, count me in if you just want to try. I made it clear in the post that it would be between 100 and 500 people, so it would be a lottery system. And over 4,000 people pledged count me in. I was just really overwhelmed with that. It really reminded me of, the really good parts about this community. Nightwave Intermission 2, The Prolonged Existence, which will be ending May 3rd. Season 3, Series 3, Glassmaker is to follow shortly after. So the problem there, the fact that the intermission went on for so long. And the solution, of course, will be Series 3, which is coming soon. And then another big thing has been just part of a bigger conversation in terms of how to change things we're working on. One big thing is giving fan artists and other community creators access to the support that already exists for fan sites, broadcasters, and video producers in a new refreshed creator program. So this has been in development for many months, and we're excited to finally be able to talk more about it. So stay tuned for more for what a creator program is and how we're making changes there. So this is something that you'll see more written about later. And now the hardest part. None of these things happen overnight, and a really good piece of advice is if you find yourself saying, well, a lot of the things you covered are problems for me, it's always okay to take breaks from Warframe. I think one of the healthiest ways to engage with the internet right now is to take breaks when you have to and come back when you think a problem you're having is solved. So that's just some general good advice for all games. We have been running this thing for over 7 years now, and if you've played every day, that's awesome. Thank you for supporting us. Don't feel like you have to if you're getting burnt out or frustrated. Just really remember to take breaks and remember that no one wants this game to succeed and have a healthy community more than us. So keep that in mind, keep it respectful, and we'll see you on the Devstream tomorrow to talk more about all that.
Now, before that home time episode went live, and it should have been covered in the previous Last Week in Warframe, There was an interview with D.E. Scott by QuitteShy, Tactical Potato, Brozime, and DKDiamantes. This interview is over an hour long, and it is very insightful, and it also confirms some comments and observations by the community. Now, while I suggest you listen to the full interview yourselves, there is one notable response, and that is in regards to Universal Vacuum. So I'll play that section for you now, and then move on to the Devstream, but I highly suggest you listen to that full interview. It's very insightful, as I said before. A link to that is in the description. Anyway, the comments about Universal Vacuum.
Credit where credit is due. Scott is literally the person who implemented a larger pickup range universally already.
And he snuck it in as well. He snuck it in with him knowing.
It's on there. It's just small.
Well, I mean, it is like kind of a real question though. Is there a consideration to add something like that? Because as it stands now, obviously fetch was added to much glee from my community personally, and then obviously we have vacuum working on all of the sentinels, so all of our companions give us access to that type of effect. And from my point of view personally, anytime I ask like really any group of Warframe players, whether that has made them much more likely to use Kubros and Kavats, it's a pretty much universal yes. So
okay,
do you think there's the merit?
Vacuum in so that no one uses Kavats and Kubros anymore.
No, it's not that. It's basically if you had it in, it would remove the need to have to use a certain one. As in, if you don't have Universal Vacuum, you have to use Cario with Vacuum or a Sentinel with a Vacuum, or you have to use a Kubro. Whereas if that was in, you could use whatever you wanted.
And the thing that I see a lot of players do even still is if their Sentinel dies, they let the enemies kill them so that they can revive and their Sentinel can come back, just because Vacuum is that kind of quality of life add-on where if they don't have it, they're just having considerably less fun in the mission.
Honestly, the conversation about Universal Vacuum, I haven't actually personally heard in probably 6 months or more. So it hasn't been on my mind at all.
I know that there is a subset of players that maybe don't want Vacuum, and like that's totally fine. So if it were to be made universal, I think to appease those players, it would be a thing that you could turn off. I think that would be fair.
Like an augment.
Yeah, like an augment. I feel like I'm somewhere. You ever played Gungeon DK? When you clear a room in that game, every piece of loot flies at you, and you ain't gotta walk around like an asshole collecting crap. It feels so nice.
What do you guys think of Shy's Exila slot mod?
Oh, I don't know about that one. I
already imagine the uproar.
I'm very much not a fan of that.
You want to be able to turn it off.
I'll
tell you what. Just to move on from this topic, I'll put it on my list of things to kind of have a look at. I can't say I'm against it. So let's leave it at that. I'll have a review of it, and if it doesn't come out again, then you know what, they can make more YouTube videos about how I'm an awful person.
just even considering it, I think is totally valid. And I obviously think like
it hasn't come up in quite a while, so
right. And like the change to add fetch and stuff alleviated like a lot of the community's feeling in a large way, I think.
Right.
Now with that recap out of the way, we move on to the bulk of this recap episode, and that is Devstream from Home number 2. So it occurred, and during the stream, we were shown another preview of Protea's ability set by Pablo. Now her animations were also shown, and 2 alternate helmets that she will be arriving with. So we'll play a clip of that for you now.
And then here is a look at Protea's alt helmet. And I'm gonna, yeah, this is a amazing alt helmet.
Show you a little bit of Protea. I want to show you a very, very important animation. She has a Ferox, as you can see. Grabs a grenade, tosses in the Ferox, bounces a little bit, puts it in the ground. Boom! We are actually doing 2 alt helmets for her. The artist that was working on it felt inspired, so it happened. So this is the first one, really cool. I really like it has like there, and it also comes with a little tie. That little tie in front, that is part of the helmet. You'll see that kind of dangles around. That's part of the helmet. So I thought it was really cool. Dodge animations. So she actually does that instead of the normal roll. It's like it's called like a handless cartwheel. Look at that, ain't that fancy? And it actually has a little bit more reach than the roll, so she feels pretty fast to like. Whenever you're like moving around and doing your acrobatics. This I'm sneaking in. I don't know if I'm supposed to show you this, but her signature weapon. Maybe we already showed this and I'm just making this up. Look at her doing some hacky sack. Oh my god, she's so good at it. So let's pause it a little bit. Get a good angle. She grabs it, boom, just tosses it back.
Now, while also showing the upcoming Corpus ship remaster coming with the Deadlock Protocol update, DE also previewed a remastered boss arena and fight for the Jackal. On top of this, they also showed a bit of that new game type that they've been mentioning that will be coming with the Deadlock Protocol, and that is at the end of this Jackal clip.
What tier is that armor? Do you remember, Rebecca?
It's rank 29.
It's 29. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's the top of the top there. Oh,
Yeah.
Is this where he is?
This is the new...
Nicknamed the Jackal. This
Yeah,
is the
it's
same
gorgeous.
deadly quad robot, which has become extremely problematic for our sows in the field.
Yeah, take a little look at his new room. So some new stuff's happening here. And if you are a cruel and unusual, style gamer, you may notice that when you're in his room, this is, they're trying out a new robotic proxy, as Lotus said. So that means you need test dummies. So these guys aren't aggressive. They're just MOAs that are here to be essentially punching bags.
Poor little guys.
All right.
Oh, that's not the Jackal. Alright. Uh-oh.
Wide shots. Yeah, look at that.
Alright, I think I got him down, so we'll go in,
Okay.
see what happens here.
This isn't final balance, but Missing a couple effects there.
Why don't we end it there? So, maybe
He's got more phases, and obviously a more modern animation presentation. It'll be very cool.
So that's obviously with the refresh, the little Jackal upgrade. He is, like Scott said, the first boss that had its own mesh. He's really the first boss, other than War, the tutorial boss that players see in the game. So yeah, getting a refresh. So you'll see on the ground here, there's something that is called a greed token. So if I pick that up, obviously the Corpus being related to the worshipping of money. Maybe some of them carry these greed tokens. So I have some, and now I can perhaps approach this here statue and see what it has to say. So
I don't think very long, because I wouldn't call it a quest spoiler, but it is. You have to do the quest to kind of open this up for regular mode, but there is this kind of small little Corpus coins that some of the enemies have, and you can use those in various ways. One of them is to interact with the shrine and get a, I don't know, what would you call this? It's a little bit like a Ratchet and Clank kind of mini arena challenge, and just pull the squad in there if they want to come in with you.
All right. Well,
There we go.
I'm gonna pay my tribute because obviously I'm paying tribute to the Corpus dogma, and I'm gonna go in with a nightmare token and see what happens.
Okay. All right.
Oh, we have a portal.
All right.
Oh boy.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
Here we go.
Okay.
You
So,
can see some of their science experiments have kind of gone wrong.
all right, and now I'm cutting away. Why don't you just give a little sprinkle of information onto this new gameplay system and the new mission wrinkle?
Scott.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to talk about it, Scott. This is, I'm not sure if it's kind of like a purgatory thing. It's related to Protea's quest as well. But yeah, it's sort of like an interesting, I don't know, what would you call this? A timed challenge. It is a purgatory. It's kind of a rush mode. There is a time limit for how long you can stand the exposure in there. There's ways of extending the exposure in there. And there is, you saw that UI, there's sort of a scaling difficulty thing, so you can kind of pick your poison, so to speak. But if you get all the things you want out of that game mode. Those coins can also be used in a couple different ways, which is to pay tribute to earn those ship decos for your ship that are really cool, that tell, they're kind of like the bas reliefs of the tablets of the Corpus greed cult. You can you can also just exchange them for credits if you need credits after a big fusion thing. And the other thing you can do is, of course, this is a remaster, so now the lore of the game has moved since that, because that's the first art set we ever had. So there are actually Solaren, kind of body debt people trapped in the ship here and there, and if you come across them, they're in the reclamation sort of like. I don't know. It's hard to call it a cage. It's almost like being in the stocks. Yeah. And you can use, if you want to use those coins, you can set them free from those traps, and they will be very grateful, and also will give you a little bit of Fortuna standing.
All right.
So there's kind of a cool way to kind of connect the story of the Corpus and how the Solarans are kind of indebted to them, and let you express that in gameplay.
Now, the team had also previewed some Nightwave Series 3 Glassmaker tier track rewards, such as shoulder plates and the crime scene investigation and detective work that Glassmaker will feature. They had also shared some thoughts on Nightwave Intermission 2's length.
Really important part of all Nightwave, of course, other than the story that brings, is, what does the series entail? So if I hop, we have Nora talking to us. Right now, the Glassmaker is a, third series of Nightwave, which means you can expect different rewards at each tier. The first tier is going to bring you the crystal cred this time around, which can allow you to purchase things in Nora's shop. So as we go through, ooh, maybe not. Okay, so we're going to walk through some of the rewards here. So we have an incredible offering of stuff with Miss Nora Knight for Series 3. There's going to be ribbons, you'll get your cred. We have some operator cosmetics, a whole set if you are able to get through the whole ranks. Dizzying rounds, and of course an Umbra Forma to get you that. And then when we get to the higher tier, you can get the Fracta shoulder armors, which is what I'm wearing. And then last but not least is the Nightwave itself. This is an landing craft model that pays homage to the forever wandering home of deadly pirate DJ Nora Knight. So this is sort of the robust offerings you can get with Series 3. There are a whole bunch of new challenges, many of which have actually come from the community. For example, finish a capture mission in less than 90 seconds. There's plenty of Railjack and Lich challenges as well, just to give you a reason to go through and play different aspects of that to earn some daily, weekly act standing towards Nightwave. There's something very new that you'll see here represented in this pentagon, which if you're have the power of observation, the Glassmaker sigil itself is 5 sides. I'm gonna hop in.
Cephalons, right? Probably got one a bit cracked, kissing up to you all the time. See, in the old days, crime and punishment was all in the hands of those Orican judges, the 7. Mercy was the quick flash of the Jade Light. But if they wanted to make an example, they'd suck up your soul and make you a prisoner of the glass forever. Seems like magic to us nowadays, but dreamers, someone's got it puzzled out again. Waves are buzzing. New glass is showing up. Souls getting snapped up and trapped.
I have it cranked here.
All we've got to go on is this crime simula I pulled from the weave. No sign of our killer, and not a soul to tell us where they went. Well, take a look around. See if you can suss out any clues about whoever this Glassmaker might be.
For this series of Nightwave, instead of just showing you the diorama, giving you all the details of the story as it unfolds with each act, so Act 1 is here, you'll actually be able to walk around in it, and as Nora said, maybe you can see what clues you can find. So, I'll be able to walk around and maybe find something.
Why don't you examine the victim? Oh, okay, or that.
There's a lot more to this that will be discovered by you, the Tenno, on release, but the Nightwave series does have this sort of deeper layer in terms of what you can do with each act as they are released. So I'm going to head out of here. You'll be able to come back at any time using the Nightwave interface, so if you guys can see here.
We're just showing you a little taste. Obviously, it's not. It's hard to call it a quest, but it is this kind of sort of shared murder mystery with all of you lovely Tenno. And each episode will bring new crime scenes for you to investigate. And there's a really cool reward in there as well, I think. So.
Oh, yeah.
In regards to more gameplay, there are two things that I want to go through. I'm just going to switch to the gameplay view. I'm going to stand in front of some reliefs that may, be related to the Deadlock Protocol, which is coming this May. And gentlemen, as far as you're concerned, do you have any context for the Deadlock Protocol update?
Yeah, the Deadlock Protocol is coming with a quest for Protea or Protea, and the quest goes into not only Protea but also the sort of origins of the Corpus and how they came to be, and who their founder was, and stuff like that.
Now, a promotional image of the Ash Deluxe skin was also provided, and it's up on your screen as they displayed it. Another short discussion was had about Scarlet Spear, and in this case, it was how it affected the devs, and this conversation also led into talks about the nature of their ambitiousness by Steve.
Some people do want to know about our plans to rerun Scarlet Spear. Spear, obviously this.
I think once we recover from the trauma of it, we'll rerun it for sure.
Yeah.
We had a lot of network scaling issues that we kept trying to fix and we couldn't because it required scale. And I think this weekend, as you said, bringing in that large group to our kind of semi-private test cluster now is going to leverage. We're going to hopefully be able to leverage that for a lot more stability. Definitely apologize, to our players who were frustrated, specifically our players that were further and further from, say, for example, Virginia, where a certain server might be or was. And now those servers have been redistributed in the world nearer to players so that their kill codes can have a hope of making it in time. So we'll definitely be rerunning it, hopefully with a lot of a smoother run than that awful few weeks. Yeah,
I think what's kind of cool is we have a pretty in-depth content pipeline for the next little bit. So, we've got a lot of stuff for you guys to play over the next while. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, for sure, it's got to come back.
Yeah.
And I think we had some unforeseen bandwidth and packet issues with it, which are kind of interesting but really boring for a live dev stream. But the complications I know Scott wanted to add to it, we had to just throw out because the fundamentals were not working. So I'm not trying to get back to those before it might be fun if we have a ability to test at the scale we need to, then maybe we can address some of the things I'm seeing in chat, which is issues of repetition and that sort of thing. Definitely not blind to those issues.
Yeah, I see a lot of people. Sorry to interrupt. I see a lot of 2.0. So just to give a quick status update on that, we have people right now working on getting rid of the stasis. The promise that I made, I guess, a year ago about getting rid of that. Well, so it's actually being worked on right now.
Steve, you jokingly said, well, not jokingly, you said, doing the Scarlet Spear update was traumatic, and just about how I think I have a chart, like a postmortem chart in progress of like, here's how many deploys we did in the first week. And it's like week 1 of Scarlet Spear, we did 6 deploys. Week 2, we did 5. And it's just kind of counting through what we fixed each week. And like, by the time I finished writing it, I got like exhausted all over again because I was like, wow, like we had to pull that through. And I think the knockoff effects of that, like, because even though and this is just a conversation I wanted to have, was just every time something like that happens, you kind of see the community spiral into this, like, if the product isn't supporting their hobby in a way that they feel proud, it really spins off into this sort of like, what's wrong with Warframe loop? And ultimately, that's the question you get a lot of people asking, which is like, what's, so if you guys were to say, like, given the launch of Scarlet Spear and moving forward, what do you think your priorities are for the rest of the year for these updates? Because we have these 2 updates coming, Nightwave Series 3 Glassmaker and Deadlock Protocol. And what lessons have you learned from the update we launched that we're hoping to apply to not have a trauma in our lives?
Yeah, I think it was, we've talked about this a little bit on and off. For me, it was work from home happened right as we tried to launch it. So now people who maybe could relied on daycare to work regular hours didn't have that anymore. And some people maybe were working through remote desktop over a VPN connection and not having maybe their PC or their laptop yet, or they didn't have conferencing equipment. So we had a whole bunch of it was kind of a perfect storm of nastiness. But the fundamental part was trying to ship something you actually can't legitimately test at the scale where it breaks. Yeah. And we worked basically through the night for 2 weeks straight. And we would collect data and we'd add more instrumentation, and we never had enough. And we never did things like doing scripts to fake the scaling. So there's a lot of technical things that we should have done that we didn't. But I think the big thing is before that was happening, I was like, let's get this test cluster thing going. And we just couldn't. The test cluster equipment couldn't scale up, beyond our trusted group that's been with us for a long time. And we appreciate them. But of course, we can't test full relays, for example, with that limited group. So we were rushing to try to get that into position. And like I said, these are not, I'm not making excuses, but these are complicating factors. The thing was, it should not have shipped in the state it was. We should have listened to our gut and said, we can't test this at scale. We can't ship it. We need to stop, make it testable at scale, and then ship it. And we didn't do that. And so hopefully we can learn that lesson and internalize it for maybe 6 months, maybe a year. Yeah. And I think in terms of the rest of the year, work from home is not the ideal for productivity. And I think you're going to see more of what some of the things that Scott's been leading up, which is, making good on what we have, not abandoning Railjack, but doing a big quality life pass, looking at damage issues we've had in the game for, since its launch or for 4 or 5 years, and trying to make improve those things rather than rushing to the next TennoCon demo that sets out the schedule even further and further. And, I think a lot of the devs, especially work from home, the anxiety levels raised, I think, for some people, maybe people at home kind of feel that.
Totally.
That means that feeling of kind of drowning in the amount of things that we're trying to do with Warframe, that's on me for piling up so much. And I think it's to try to slow that down and focus on, fundamental things that we know work for people, take maybe a little bit less design risk with wacky turducken gameplay, and get back to some of those fundamentals and fix what we have and get some quests in there and get those Warframes working and build up the game world without me chasing off some kind of new, dating sim aspect.
Lastly, for the Devstream from home number 2 information, DE Rebecca had quickly addressed the chat bringing up AGGP for discussion, where she said the following.
Okay. We'll say goodbye to the team. Again, I see a lot of comments in chat about, trying to address really specific things. We don't typically do like a public execution of any type. So please be excellent to each other. Be aware that everyone here is a person, and we really appreciate your patience. Be excellent to each other. Everything we are working on.
They did.
So Please have an awesome time. The internet and the world is in chaos right now. The least we can do is not contribute to it. So take it easy, guys, and say goodbye from the team.
Peace.
Also, apologies for the clip-heavy episode this week, but it felt appropriate based on the topics and comments made. Moving forward, on PC, before the release of Update 27.4 Railjack Revisited, there was Hotfix 27.3.16 that fixed a number of script errors, and alongside other fixes, fixed the Basmoo's Healing Pulse, receiving exponential copies of equipped mods with each pulse when under the effect of some conditional buffs. As previously mentioned, Update 27.4 Railjack Revisited Part 1 did go live on PC. As a mainline update, it came with numerous fixes and changes, most notably big changes to the Railjack experience, Arcwing weapons, avionics, and a lot more. This update also launched the defendable object healing and damage reduction changes mentioned in a previous episode and developer workshop. So as of this update, nearly all healing and damage reduction abilities heal and defend static defense targets. Conclave, Warframe, Augment, and Weapon mods have also been converted to PvE mods and are still usable with the Conclave for those wondering. Access to these mods at the moment of recording are only available from Teshin in the Conclave with Conclave standing. You can also trade for the mods, but in the future they will be available for Nightwave credits, starting with the release of Nightwave Series 3, Glassmaker. The Simulor weapons were buffed, the market UI was updated with filters that hide mastered weapons, and there are a lot more changes and additions that came with 27.4. When it comes to the fixes, they had at least 20 minutes of me reading them. When it came to just general additions, the defense changes and all of that, it was 13 minutes, and then the Railjack Revisited Part 1 changes and overhaul was about 22 minutes. So if you want to know more information about everything that changed with this update, go to those videos, the patch note videos, or you can of course read it on the patch notes on the Warframe forums. Following 27.4, Hotfix 27.4.1 came and notably increased the XP gained from removing Railjack hazards. So fire, electricity, and ice hazards reward 2,400 XP, a hull breach rewards 2,400, and a hull rupture rewards 4,000. Fixes were also made with this hotfix, and the full extent of those fixes can be found within the hotfix patch note video up on the channel, or of course on the patch notes. Moving on, for those wondering about Scarlet Spear credits and what happens now that, at least on PC, the event has finished, DE Rebecca has confirmed that the unused credits you had at the point Scarlet Spear finished will be available when Scarlet Spear returns in the future. For those that need it, DE Bear has released a short forum post guide on how to enable two-factor authentication for your account on each platform the game is currently on. All the information is available on the forum post, so you don't make any errors based on any errors that I could possibly say when reading it out through this weekly recap video. Nightwave Intermission 2 has ended on the 3rd of May, and DE explained the reason it remained active for 6 months via a forum post. This was covered in its own individual video, and to save time since this video based on the audio recording is a bit too long already, I will leave a link to my individual video covering the reason why in the description and a card up on your screen. Lastly, to conclude this episode, the winners of the Spring 2020 Featured Dojo contest were announced on Home Time number 6, and they are displayed up on your screen. Anyway, that concludes this episode of Last Week in Warframe. If you found the video informative, make sure to leave a like. If you think I can improve upon the series in any way, shape or form outside of sharing my own opinion, comment section down below. If you want the channel glyphs, there are 5 codes currently up on your screen per platform. I would have more, I did start to add more, but I've already run out of Switch codes, and I'll hopefully be getting more of those in the future once I run out of the Xbox, PlayStation, and PC glyph codes. So I do apologize if you're looking for a Switch code, but I'm run out, and I want to get the same amount so I don't have this issue again in the future. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.